hackers act alone, do it solo, treat it like an art form. They plan their attack, feel for what to do next, attempt to exploit the system, and they rely on their intuition to conduct a hack. But IRA does it differently.
They specialize in putting together teams of former special forces and intelligence officers to go after organizations.
IRA is methodical, follows a playbook, and works with highly trained people. The jobs IRA does are bigger than what one person is capable of. It needs a crew of specialized people, each one with a different mastery of their craft. And he's assembled one of the most elite hacking teams in the country. Each member is incredibly skilled. They rely more on their training and what steps are required to accomplish the task, and less on intuition. The plan of attack is structured and methodical.
Yeah.
Think of it like Ocean's 11.
I don't even want to call it Ocean's 11. Because that's kind of average hours.
This team is about to
Alright, 54 and 48 minutes. There we go.
The first time you steal $1 billion, it's a bit of a rush. After you've kind of done this so many times, it's almost expected.
These are true stories from the dark side of the internet. Object assignment. This is Darkness Diaries. Hey, it's Jack, and I want to have a quick chat with you for a moment. I make this show so I can educate and entertain you. It's free, so I can spread knowledge and share important stories. But I need your help, though. Less than 1% of my audience is supporting this show directly through Patreon. Help fund the show, enable me to research and present stories that are free from outside pressures. It lets me be more honest with you. Above all, it tells me this show brings value to you. For those of you who are regular listeners and find this educational, entertaining, or valuable, please consider donating to the show. Please don't support it if it causes you any financial stress. By supporting this podcast, it shows a new ethic in supporting the work you appreciate. At first, I was hesitant to even lower my hand to allow you to give. Now I see direct donations as the most straightforward transaction for helping. When you buy a book, rate a see a movie, pay before you even know if it's of value to you. But I give you this show free so you can determine if it brings you value before giving. So please visit darknetdiaries.com/donate and help me out. Thanks. I've been told that some of my listeners are 9-year-olds. Crazy, huh? So hey, what's up, kids? Because of this, I'm gonna have to give warnings as needed. And in this particular episode, it does have foul language. Sorry, kids. Warning. I want you to meet Ira Winkler.
Hey there.
8 years ago, I heard Ira talk at a security conference. He blew me away. It was one of those talks I will never forget. I'm very excited to be able to talk to him again because he leads a very interesting life. Ira looks at the world differently than we were. He's quick to see vulnerability, whether in person or building or computer, exploited. He's good at this because of his background. He was fascinated early on by the human brain, so he got a college degree in psychology. After getting a degree, he had a hard time finding a job. He thought maybe the U.S. government would hire him, so he took their aptitude test.
Did really well. Basically, if I got a clearance, I got a job. I got the clearance. They said, wow, you have really good computer aptitude. You want a computer internship? I'm like, no, I hate computers. I want nothing to do with them. They're like, what about cryptanalysis? It'll be like playing games. I'm like, I don't want to look at ones and zeros all day.
But he didn't see any better option.
Finally, I took a job as an intelligence analyst for the National Signals Intelligence Operations Center, which was known as NSOC, which is the only room that actually looks cool at NSA.
Part of this job was to decipher encrypted messages. This is called cryptanalysis.
Cryptanalysis. There it is. Cryptanalysis. Cryptography.
It was understanding what information is secure and what isn't. In a very real-world, hands-on way. And he taught himself how to program to do his job better. But
ironically, I hated cryptanalysis. I hated computers. My first technical computer job was programming supercomputers to do cryptanalysis, so that was bizarre.
he eventually moved to another department, this time doing research and development for tactical signals intelligence.
That's where I was running around Europe, helping people in little green trucks, do stuff.
I'm really secretive about what he did at the NSA because he has to be. Signals intelligence is collecting information from the enemy, and the enemies are everywhere. There's always a threat brooding somewhere. Possibly another country is planning an attack on us. terrorist group was meeting to discuss their next steps. Signals intelligence
Only
is knowing
person
what the
data.
enemy is up to. When you
Only
do
person
this, you
instance of
find
the
out where
data.
they are, and then figure out a
Only
way to
use with the
intercept
rogue
those
comments.
conversations.
Only
So
use the
while
rogue
running around
comments.
Europe
Right
helping
down.
people in little green trucks,
Close the
Ira became more
console.
worldly and started to learn how
Back at
spies
DM10.
operate. But eventually he left the NSA and joined a contracting company, did various IT tasks. Then one day a new contract job was given him.
They're like, well, we have a contract to find out as much about the company as possible without breaking into their computer systems.
Basically, the contract was to use social engineering against an investment bank to see if he could get access to it. Now keep in mind, this is the early 90s, so not a lot was known about social engineering at the time.
I just started going ahead and basically my intelligence background, having worked at NSA, working with a bunch of other intelligence agencies along the way and stuff, I just used essentially basic human elicitation techniques to lie to people over the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Human elicitation is the act of getting someone to tell you a piece of information. With his experience in intelligence gathering at the NSA and being a psychology major, Ira took an interest in this.
Yeah,
Pretty good at getting people
yeah,
to tell him
psychology.
information they shouldn't be telling you. For instance, he might start out by simply asking an employee for a phone number and getting it, and then slowly asking for more and more stuff until he has the whole phone directory. Eventually, the person is giving him loads of information that they shouldn't be giving him.
And get them to slowly give away information, and then I started getting lots of login IDs and passwords. I even got the investment bank to send me a computer pre-configured for their VPN. That was fun.
Getting people to tell him information they shouldn't be telling him came naturally.
Well, it's good, isn't it?
And by the end of 3 days, I had supposedly user IDs and logins to make financial transactions.
By using just a phone and his wits, Ira was eventually able to take over the bank. He gave a talk at a security conference and wrote an article about how he did this. People responded in ways he didn't see coming. They were so impressed with his methods and abilities.
But then when it got really well publicized and people started coming to me to do weirder and weirder stuff, they're like, well, we want you to come into our company as a temporary employee and rob us blind, so I did.
And that's how Ira's career got started as a social engineer and penetration tester. He was paid to test whether he could access places he shouldn't be allowed to access, or get information he shouldn't be allowed to get. Because this is what bad guys would try to do, and the companies wanted to protect themselves. As the jobs got weirder and weirder, he got better and better at getting unauthorized access. He eventually started getting so many jobs that he started his own security consulting company. But here's where things get totally crazy. Ira has a background in national intelligence. He's very familiar with how spies operate, like real military trained spies.
Right.
He met many of them in his time working for the government. So when he started doing his own penetration testing, he would ask some of his spy friends to help him on certain missions. And over time, Ira was able to build a crack team of highly trained special agents to help him break into buildings and steal information. Ira started taking on bigger jobs and using his crew to get into some of the most secure buildings. Buildings such as nuclear reactor facilities and banks. Ira became known as one of the best to hire to do penetration testing because he brings a team like nobody else can.
I like to call them more espionage simulations. I specialize in putting together teams of former special forces and intelligence officers
Special
to
forces,
actually go
baby.
after organizations like real high-level adversaries would.
Yeah, the media has called him the modern day James Bond. Depending on the job, he'll put together an elite team for the task. For instance, there's Stu.
Stu's a former Navy SEAL.
He's extremely fit, agile, tactical, and has years of training in espionage and raiding. Yeah, raiding. He knows where to look for weak points in a structure, knows how to use a grappling hook, and he's good at going undetected by security. So he helps Ira whenever there's a need for physical intrusions.
Stu has like an innate nature, frankly, one time he took advantage of a situation much quicker than I'm mad at myself. I didn't do this, but we were once in a security room having our pictures taken for badges, and the guard walks out. He's like, "Oh, I gotta go to the other room and pick up the badges." And Stu's like, "Ira, lean against the door, for a second." So I go lean against the door. Stu goes behind the desk and pulls up a bunch of blank badges, like valid security badges, and grabs them.
These are some of the things Ira tests for. Him and Stu look for physical vulnerabilities like this and report them.
Oh, shit, precious.
And then there's Tony.
Former Army counterintelligence officer.
Tony has been trained to look for threats against his country. He's good at collecting this information by using traditional spying techniques
also good on the physical side, but we primarily used him for the telephone social engineering. He's trained, he would be an intelligence specialist in human intelligence. He was trained in counterintelligence, so he would know how to conduct interviews, he would know how to elicit information, and so on.
See, Tony has been trained to follow a process to get someone to divulge information that would, in essence, betray their own country. He's tricky, clever, and extremely good at what he does.
There's a process of establishing a relationship and elevating the relationship to the point where you get people to slowly divulge non-important information, to where you slowly raise the stake of what level of information they give out, till at some point they're pretty much over the hump and they're screwed.
Tony comes across as a nice guy.
Nasty motherfucker, you
Someone
nasty.
who you might think is a good, wholesome gentleman.
It's good.
He's calm and courteous, which comes in handy when you're trying to get information from everyday normal people who might not even know they have valuable information to divulge, like, say, the front desk receptionist.
He has like this nice, just a slow speaker. It's kind of like you expect to see when you're driving through Kansas and stop to ask for directions. You would swear he was a good old country boy.
And then there's Stan. Stan is kind of my favorite.
Stan was a colonel in the GRU before he defected over.
The GRU is Russia's foreign intelligence agency, similar to the CIA. They're often trained to follow spies or be deployed in foreign lands and collect information. Stan has extensive training in intelligence gathering.
And Stan's background, besides it being a Russian operative, his primary target while he was in the GRU was against China. And so he speaks fluent Mandarin. He also, reads Chinese and all that. Before he came to the U.S., where he was obviously focused on targeting U.S. intelligence type of stuff.
Stan came to the U.S. to collect data on U.S. government and report it back to Russia. He's a masterful spy. He would often go to Washington, D.C. and hang out in bars. He'd ask someone for a cigarette, start a conversation. He'd learn they work for a government agency. No surprise in Washington, D.C. And over time, Stan would build trust with that person and get them to divulge government secrets.
Stan was referred to me as one of the most successful GRU agents targeting the U.S. in history. So Stan literally gets people to betray his country under penalty of death, which is a different level of social engineering than getting somebody to give up a password. We use him to target an organization the way a real foreign operative would, because everybody thinks of spying like James Bond, but the actual traditional espionage is done by spies like Stan. And what they try to do is they try to find access to people with information and get them to divulge it either knowingly or unknowingly to him.
That's right.
This is kind of like, I don't even want to call it Ocean's 11. I mean, because that's kind of amateurish hours.
Yeah, it is.
Stu, Tony, and Stan have had training in some of the most advanced places in the world. They have enough experience to have mastered their craft. And this is just some of the members of Ira's team. Their combined skills make them potentially one of the most advanced hacking teams in the world.
I just know them from my intelligence background, but there's a difference between somebody who goes around, I'm a social engineer. It's like, these people, if they get caught, they just get the get out of jail free card. You're talking about Stan, who was in China, being monitored, who had radioactive powder put on his doorknob so it was easier to track him. Stan.
Good afternoon. This is Mr. Howie. I can help you.
He could be pulled off the street, tortured, and killed.
Hi. I'm doing wonderful. I'm in a class right now, but doing great. Doing great.
He's dead. We're talking about people who have a fundamental aversion to be captured, not because they're afraid.
When would they like to schedule an interview?
It would be embarrassing. We're talking people who know to do this because their lives depended on it.
Okay, yeah, Tuesday is great. I'm available Tuesday. I can make that happen if we can lock it in.
From one of the biggest companies in the world.
Yes, ma'am.
Company, they wanted him to do an espionage simulation against them to see how
Wonderful.
vulnerable they
Thank you
are.
so very
Now,
much.
Global 5 company is worth hundreds of billions of dollars, which means the company has a lot to lose. One thing in particular that would cause a lot of financial damage is all the research and development information. This is stuff like the source code for their systems or all the technologies they're coming out with in the next few years.
So that was our primary target, to prove we could get access to all the R&D data.
If this were to be stolen by another competitor or government, it could cost them millions of dollars. So Ira's job is to find as many weaknesses as possible
that was beautiful.
to help secure them.
Well, primarily it was just, I hate to say, grab him by the balls and squeeze?
Iris started researching, planning the mission. He first figured out the location of the R&D department, which turned out to be in a small town in the middle of nowhere. He used Google Maps and other tools to learn more. There was a fence around the property and stationed guards to restrict people from being able to drive in. He determined the building was going to be locked, and the data he was looking for would be in their computer operations center. He was able to make some phone calls and figure all this out pretty quickly. As he sized up the job, he knew he was going to need some help. So he assigned Stu, Tony, and Stan to the mission. All four of them fly to this small town where the research and development office was located. The team arrives one by one.
Bruh.
Named Seal, the Army counterintelligence officer, and a Russian spy.
Tony, ironically, was responsible for following Russian spies around Europe while he was in the Army. It was kind of funny having Stan working on the project together. But I flew in late at night, and all I wanted was a stupid bottle of water that the hotel didn't have. And so I'm driving around trying to, in this little strip mall type of place, and all of a sudden I'm driving around late at night, and I look in my rearview mirror, and there's a car behind me, and I was driving pretty slow, which is unusual for me because I was looking to see what stores might be open.
Bruh.
And so anyway, I moved over to let the car go by me, and then the car moves over with me, and then I was like, am I being followed? And then so I switch lanes once again, and the car follows me again, and I'm like, I'm being followed. Most people think, okay, speed off. That's not what you do when you're being followed. Like in the real world. It's why, one of the, gas station open up with a little quick mark in it. So basically I'm driving and I do make the sharp turn, like I'm going to drive past and I make the sharp turn into the gas station, pull my car up to where I can get out of the car and go straight into the door of the quick mark, locking everything.
What?
And what happened was the car pulls behind me. It turns out to be an unmarked police car. And I'm kind of relieved it's a police car. Then the cop gets out. I go, what the hell were you following me for? He's like, what are you cutting over? I go, because I was being followed. And the guy couldn't argue with me. He goes, well, you were driving kind of, you were driving, below the, I go, when is driving below the speed limit an area of concern, like a crime? Mm-hmm. It was kind of funny, but I was calling out the cop for following me.
So the squad begins the mission. First, they scout the building and watch what people are wearing as they come and go. They notice which points of entry there are and how traffic flows. Then they regroup to put clothes on to physically blend in with other employees. Ira puts on a shirt with the corporate logo on it, and they suited up and got ready. And at last, they're all set. It's now go time. All four of them get in the car, drive to the building.
We ended up going there. They had a campus-like setting for their R&D center.
There was a guard gate to get onto the campus, with actual guards checking everyone coming through. There was a lot of traffic that morning.
Everybody was just lined up coming off the main road and stuff. You hold up something that looks like a badge and they don't check. Nobody wants to slow down the morning rush hour. They just waved us through. We knew where their computer operations center was, so this was like day one. Drove everybody in. And then we're like, okay, let's get in. So I told everybody, yeah, hold on a second. Let's just stand here by the door.
The team waits around, acting inconspicuous while Ira forms a plan. He tries the door. It's locked. He thinks maybe he can heal the waits for someone to come out.
And then I started hearing somebody come out. There was a crypto lock on the door. And I just started acting like I'm pressing buttons. The guy goes out, holds the door open for me. I and my team go in.
They quickly orient themselves in the building and start heading to the computer operations center. They act like they belong, walking deliberately, but not too fast. They're scanning the room, careful not to be obvious. They try to blend in and go unnoticed. They eventually found the room they were looking for and gained access to it. Once there,
we find out that all their critical servers were left logged on as admins, so pretty much we, just added a new .r host entry, for one we had control over, so we were able to basically get a trusted relationship on all of the critical servers within the room without causing any significant damage. And then pretty much the technical operation was done. And while we were walking around, though, Stan was walking. He's like, I don't know, what are these Chinese American dictionaries doing on the shelf here? And I'm like, have you seen U.S. colleges lately, Stan? sarcastically. Stan's like, I'll look into this. So anyway, and pretty much we were done day one where Stu and I were like, we physically compromised every, the critical information we needed.
We head back to the car with a feeling of mission accomplished. But Ira's done this so much, he doesn't really get excited anymore.
Well, it's kind of, the first time you steal $1 billion, it's a bit of a rush. After you've kind of done this so many times, it's almost expected. Frankly, it was really unclimatic to actually take over control of all their computers in the R&D center.
There's still a couple more objectives that the team wanted to do. Tony made some phone calls and was trying to get people to tell him usernames and passwords over the phone.
And, of course, Tony was able to get information right and left.
And Stan was doing what spies do. He was going around town doing a counterintelligence assessment. Basically, he was looking around for anything suspicious. Ira began compiling his findings in a report, showing exactly how much damage he could have done to the company with what he found. But because the team finished early, they had a few days with nothing to do in this small town.
We had time to kill. We drove around, looked at different restaurants and so on, and figure out where we're going to go. And a couple days later, after I remember, I'm like done. I moved on to a different project while Stan was doing his counterintelligence assessment of the area. Calls me up 2 days later, goes, Ira, there are black duck eggs on the menu. And I'm like, what the fuck? Is this what we're paying you for? He's like, Ira, my Native American friend. He goes, don't you know black duck eggs? Delicacy, China.
Hello.
So then you start putting it together. He goes, Ira, I go to Chinese restaurant number 1 that we drive past. Chinese restaurant number 1,
What's going on here?
people friendly, food not so good.
I see it.
I go Chinese restaurant number 2, walk in, menu written only in Chinese. Delicacies you can't get in San Francisco, let alone this little piece of shit town in the middle of nowhere. I start talking to them in Mandarin, and they get very, very worried. What funny Russian guy doing talking fluent Mandarin? And then he's like, Ira, this special menu, only Chinese people would appreciate. Number 2, you hold meeting there. They give you free meeting room. And then they give you big discount if you want to hold meeting there. I'm sure there must be recordings.
Okay.
Stan started adding up all the signs. This restaurant was very unusual, but only someone fluent in Chinese culture would recognize how unusual it was.
That's actually right. Right answer is A. There's an issue.
A Chinese intelligence operation in the middle of this small town directly across the street from the Research and Development Center of a Global 5 company led Ira and the team to one conclusion. It's a high probability that this Chinese restaurant was there to steal trade secrets from the company and send them back to China's government agencies. This restaurant may have been used to recruit employees of the company and help gather information. Often temp employees are converted to spies. Being there for only a short time means you're less likely to get caught. Or perhaps they would simply record all conversations that took place in that restaurant, hoping to catch secrets, or something more sinister.
But what they do is they set up a social situation where people come in, see that they can read the special menu, they talk to them, say, hey friend, I see you like our special menu. Are you from China? Are you here on a visa? Do you have family back there? Would you like your family to stay alive? Is your loyalty to this temporary employer, or is your loyalty to your motherland?
Must have gotten cold.
Yeah, still all day.
That's how Chinese intelligence operations acts. And, there's been multiple times Stan has found Chinese intelligence operations operating out of Chinese social clubs in different areas and so on. Stan comes up with these what the fuck moments, but he's good at what he does. Oh, yeah,
So I got a question on the answer choices for the test. If it's messed up here in the real test, it's going to be right, like on that CVSS one? Okay, so maybe I'll put a note. Double check.
Right turns, and they keep following me around the block. And then I made a U-turn, and they're not very good. I go, why aren't they very good? They hit a pole when they went to make a U-turn to follow me. I just hope they weren't corporate security or were screwed.
No, right.
To the security manager and the CISO.
Thank you for this.
Like,
You just don't know how it helps me study.
Yeah.
I'm taking care of their computers.
This chief security officer has seen a lot of pen test reports, but not even in his wildest imagination was a Chinese intelligence operation a possibility.
Shoot.
And we're like, well, you should talk to the FBI, let the FBI find out the FBI knows this or whatever. And the guy was like, I don't know. Stan, because of the situation, he obviously has to stay in touch with the FBI, so Stan informed the FBI about the operation.
But there's one last step, the biggest one. Ira needs to present his findings to the CEO in a way that the CEO can understand.
In this case, what happened was, after 3 days, I'm like, okay, here's your mergers and acquisitions data, which is worth billions because of the negotiation points that you would have, and if other companies knew what you were targeting and so on, again, could could ruin things. Here's your new technologies coming out in 3 years. We have full control of your entire network. So again, it was showing him the business value of all the loss of the vulnerabilities found. Because there's a difference between finding vulnerabilities and demonstrating the potential cost of the vulnerabilities that matters.
This is another thing that impresses me about Ira. He doesn't simply put in the report what is vulnerable, but he gives a clear dollar amount to the CEO of how much a theft like this could
Quantify it.
Oh, sorry. Okay. All right. Okay.
Okie dokie?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So in our vulnerability scans, we're gonna find different types of results in there. And it's gonna identify different vulnerabilities. We have to figure out whether it's a false positive, a true positive, a false negative, or a true negative. So a false positive is gonna be something that's falsely saying that it is a negative, but it's a positive, right? True positive, obviously, it's gonna be truly positive. A false negative is gonna let somebody go through that shouldn't have gone through. False negatives are our most concerning because we're gonna miss something. And then a true negative, obviously, indicated correctly by the system, it shouldn't get in, it's blocked. So basically, we're not gonna let it in.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, which it should have done with the false negative, but it didn't. So our vulnerability scores are not static, they're always dynamic, always happening. So consider a variety of special considerations, the availability of a patch. Okay, is there a patch out there? Are we still using the workaround? What is it that we're using? Still got the donut on the car, right? Impact of the vulnerability, where, how much, what's gonna happen. Is it a low value system? If it's a low value system, then obviously it's gonna be a lower score than a high value system. So we have to go look at that, and then the level of sophistication needed to be able to hack that. We just kind of went through that with the network and the adjacent network and different things like that. So it's like, what level of hacking do you think that it would take to be able to expose this vulnerability? Do you think that we've got it, or do you think that this is, is this really something somebody wants? If it is, then you need to protect it. If it isn't, whatever.
Well,
And what's the asset value? So it's the value that you have to look at. How much would somebody pay to have this? If somebody would pay a lot, then you can well imagine that it'd probably be hacked to steal it, to be able to sell it. So organizations can adjust scores accordingly. This leaves out so much. Okay. Then weaponization, availability, patches, impact. We've got level of sophistication of the threat actors, the asset value, and then the weaponization and exploitability. So what can be used? Is it an email what is the attack vector? What is the complexity? AV and AC,
Okay. That's right.
HVAC system, huh?
Like that.
An attacker can easily use weaponized exploit to gain unauthorized access, like a Trojan, to be able to get in. Additionally, attackers can easily share weaponized exploits for others to use.
That's a good point.
And then exploitability. Conversely, a vulnerability is low exploitability, may be less urgent and is less likely to be exploited. Exploitability is of a vulnerability depends on a lot of factors, especially the attack complexity, the availability of the tools and techniques to exploit it, or the weaponization, and the availability of tools and techniques. Any security measures already in place to defend against a vulnerability. So, analysts must consider carefully all aspects of a vulnerability.
Really? Okay. I get you. All aspects. All aspects.
0 day represents an exploitable vulnerability with no available patch. The lack of available patch is caused either because the vulnerability is new and the patch is not yet available, or because the vulnerability is entirely unknown to the software provider. These vulnerabilities are highly valuable to attackers. Standard vulnerability scanning techniques cannot detect unknown 0 day exploits because the scanner depends upon the vulnerability database for the known vulnerabilities.
This must depend upon the database, gosh.
Yeah. It's kind of like a firewall.
Right. Right.
It's got the database to tell it what is good and what isn't.
Yeah. So if you break the database, I guess you break everything.
Right? There's a crack in your firewall.
Yeah.
Okay, factors influencing score adjustments. So if the CVSS score of 10, which is like, oops, hypothetical remote code execution, or RCE vulnerability. CVSS score of 10,
Yes.
During risk assessment process, organization discovers that successful exploiting a vulnerability requires an attacker be connected to the same network. Further analysis reveals that the vulnerability application only runs a single fully air-gapped system. Well, then it's not exploitable. Another example might be a vulnerability marked as informational, not designated with a CVSS score, such as vulnerabilities associated with web applications, but they find out that it's easily exploitable and could result in significant damage.
That's good right there.
Therefore, you can't trust the scores.
You can't trust.
It's like, how can we trust the scores in?
Right.
CVS scores, CVSS, the impact, potential damage, and harm it could cause. Exploitability, the likelihood of it being exploited. Remediation, how are we going to fix it? What's going to happen? The metrics is how many systems or how many people can it affect. Confidentiality, extend to which data set is disclosed. Integrity, obviously, systems functionality is changed or impaired. Availability, yeah, it's not available. Privacy extends to which the system's privacy is impacted. Hopefully not the air-gap network.
Right.
Operations, to extend to which of the system's security is affected. And any other relevant and important factors in there. Base metric, temporal, and then environmental. Confidentiality, integrity, availability. Into 3 categories. Base metric, so the exploitability and the impact. Okay, so attack vector may hit confidentiality. Complexity will hit integrity. Privilege is availability, yes. User interaction, could be any of it. Temporal, exploit code, remediation level, and report competence, and then environmental modified database or modified base metrics. So that would affect integrity for sure,
Yeah.
confidentiality, and availability. Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
I agree. Okay. And this is Common Vulnerability Scoring System, NIST, NBD, NISCA, Vulnerability Scoring System 3, Calculator, okay.
Okay.
Cisco Security Common Vulnerability Scoring System.
Go back to there. Okay, we go.
This describes when a vulnerability scan incorrectly indicates that the vulnerability or misconfiguration is
False
present
positive. False positive.
when it's not.
Yeah, false positive.
What type of vulnerability cannot be detected by vulnerability scanning tools?
0 day. That's happening right now. Boom. Yeah, it's right there.
3 categories in the CVSS score include impact, exploitability, and
Remediation.
yes, sir. Good job. I
Yes,
didn't
ma'am.
get out.
Trying to study ahead.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah. Okay. Remediation.
Establishing context awareness.
Okay. Alright, that's one now. I'm working on that now.
Context awareness.
It's a good one. It's a very good lab. It's a very good lab.
You did it?
No, I'm working on it now.
Oh, okay.
I've been slowly going through them, but I'm also working on test questions too. So yeah.
Man, you got all the balls up in the air.
Well, that's what Sean taught us. You said try to get that test done quick. I'm like, I like to get it done too. That Memorial Day. So I'd love to be able to do it, but I'm gonna push. We'll see what happens. Practice.
Okay.
Yes, so I'm staying here. We got another chapter, right?
I'm gonna do another chapter.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. So we're chapter 7. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Chapter 7.
So that's less on Friday.
Yeah, that's perfect.
We'd be out early.
Okay, it's good.
I know at
That's
least.
good for the weekend for you because you have to go back home. You gotta
Well,
go
it's
up
good
to-
for you too.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Communicating vulnerability
Okay.
information. How are we going to report it?
Yes.
And there are several different ways you can do it. KPIs, in a report format. You know, there's just a lot of ways. Okay. I really like maybe not so much on this, but the summaries are always really good. What was I doing just recently? What they changed? I don't remember what it is, but it was something that just changed, a CompTIA one. And they had some really good slides afterward that went through good review, a really good review. And I thought,
Okay.
this is really cool.
Okay.
I thought I need to start including it in the slides. It's not Security Plus, it's not Network Plus. I just recently did A plus, but that wasn't it. Something that somebody and I just did one on
Okay.
one. Sorry, I can't remember it, but I may think of it. Okay. Vulnerability reporting is making sure that the company knows what level of risk we have.
Yes, ma'am.
And basically it's provide information to the appropriate people about the mitigations.
Okay.
We need to make a decision here.
Okay.
This is what I recommend.
Okay.
You know, that would be the big thing. This is what I recommend.
Okay. So okay.
And then they can make a decision based off of, they might ask somebody else, what do you recommend?
Okay.
What do you recommend?
Gotcha.
So they, even especially if they're not technically inclined, they need several different opinions. Yes. So, 2 main types of reports. One simple summaries of existing vulnerabilities and details. So we go in, this exists in this application, and here are some things that can happen because it exists. Okay? So outlining all specific things, which is really good. And reporting, the people in the know or need to know what could happen if this is exploited.
Okay.
Really, don't you feel like if you were a manager of a security firm and you didn't know that exploit could actually be a ransomware attack or something like that, it'd be like, so why wasn't I told?
Right.
Why wasn't I informed of this? And it's like, well, I didn't really think that it would happen. So basically, increased awareness helps identify potential weaknesses in systems, software, and networks. Improved response uses processes to quickly mitigate newly identified critical vulnerabilities. Do you do any vulnerability assessments? Or
Not
anything?
yet, no ma'am. I will hope to with my next job. That's my goal. But no.
So then they can look at their security posture and say, do we want to take this risk? And they can do transference, or they can avoid, or any of the risk mitigation steps, right?
Okay. Right.
Provides metrics and measures to track the effectiveness and better compliance. Hey, you know what? We are regulated under the state or the U.S. or whatever. So laws, regulations, data privacy legislation, security standards, anything like that. And we, so in one of the, I hate to say it, in Atlanta, there's an association that governs lawyers.
Oh.
Okay. So I'm not going to say what the association is. But what we went in there and we set up VMs on their machines and stuff like that, because we found out that somebody went and quoted a network. Okay.
Oh, no.
Servers, software, licenses, the whole thing. But what they brought in was used crap, pirated software, and no licenses, and ran away with the funds, right?
Shadow IT. Yeah. Very
Well, seeing as how they were the network and they brought this in, wouldn't be shadow IT, but anyways. So when we went in there to start doing like email addresses and stuff like that, the Exchange server would say, hey, you don't have a license.
Oh.
Or don't you want a license for this? And so we went in and told the office manager, and they said, but we paid for all that. We paid tens of thousands of dollars for all the licensing and everything. Well, I'm sorry, but you would assume that somebody doing something for the association that supports lawyers would not, go and confiscate, funds.
Right, especially as lawyers, and they support
Right,
lawyers.
exactly. Hello,
Yeah.
So we went in and said, this is what we can do for you, and yet you have to buy licenses for the server.
Okay.
So she was still trying to decide whether they wanted to do a VM, put it out in the cloud,
Okay.
or to just, fix the server and then license the server. In the meantime, I'm like, how much do you pay on your email? Because the email server is going to go down. No more email, it's like the licenses. It needs to be licensed.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. So I'm like, this is what could happen. And I mean, talk about a serious vulnerability. So anyways, we've got dashboards, we've got indicators and charts and graphs and all kinds of visual representations for the vulnerabilities. And the ones that I like are the pie charts, where you can see all red around it and you go, oh crap, what is that? Vulnerability summary report. So here's what we got. This is a summary of it.
Yep.
And then detailed. Detailed report of each application, each system, recommendation for remediation on those. Yeah. The Quad A company. You could generate reports in plain text, which is probably not a good idea. CSV, which is a spreadsheet, right?
Mm-hmm.
XML, nice reporting format, PDF, and HTML. CSV and XML-based reports provide standardized output that is often helpful in sharing, uploading vulnerability information. HTML, obviously, web, and then PDF, similar to HTML.
Yeah.
Easy to print and distribute, but you can't necessarily change it. Man, that IP address, 27, what are they doing on that machine? Oh, holy cow. 25 is just about as bad.
Yeah.
So in our vulnerability reports, output of vulnerability scanning platforms, host vulnerabilities, operating systems, hypervisors, databases. Host vulnerabilities, desktop applications, mobile devices, web platforms, network devices, tons of others. Somebody just decides to go in and grab an application that's not been whitelisted.
Mm-hmm.
Stinkers. Best practices for reports is use appropriate tools. Everybody has their favorite kind of tool,
Right.
you know.
Okay.
Be consistent, develop policies and procedures for doing this, and do it on a regular schedule.
Okay.
Follow best practices, effectiveness of reports by using consistent formats, color coding, highlight information, staying focused on critical information. Follow best practices and automate processes. Some days you might get too busy. It's Wednesday. I usually do a vulnerability report today, and it's not coming out. So
Mm-hmm.
formats, best practices. Okay. Vulnerability report content, details regarding the vulnerability. Number of instances, that 200 some odd instances. The affected systems, the risk levels, and the recommendations. So what is 27 doing that is causing that kind of disruption? It looks like he's being naughty. 240 processes, but 75 of them are vulnerabilities.
Mm.
That's
I see
a
that.
lot.
I see that right there.
15 of those are
Real critical. So.
Yeah. Probably doing BitTorrent at work.
It's good to know this because you never think I've learned not to do YouTube, but a lot of people do YouTube. Would that be tracked in there?
Not really.
Okay, good. Thank God.
Yeah, not really.
Okay.
Because I would assume that YouTube would be whitelisted.
Yeah.
Probably.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
What people think
I gotta think about that.
about having YouTube available at
I've
work.
had some say yes, some say no. So it's
Yeah,
kinda,
yeah.
yeah.
Because YouTube has everything.
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, I know in legal offices, they have to get to Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all those because they look at that, you know, at who's suing who and who's being sued, and it looks at their character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Not judged by the color of their skin,
Right.
but the content
Their
of their
character.
character.
That's right.
That was one of the greatest things.
Greatest things.
Yeah. Consistent format, standard color coding,
Standard color.
automate.
Got
Yes,
it.
okay. Details regarding the vulnerability, number of instances, the risk levels, and recommendations. Okay. So the score, risk score, and priority. We already know these. Helps measure the risk levels, depends on many factors. Used by organizations to prioritize work, yes. Determine if security posture is adequate.
Yes.
Compare security posture of different organizations in the same sector. Well, that would be good. Mitigations. Detailed vulnerability reports include recommended mitigations such as patching or describing a workaround. Some vulnerabilities require workarounds that are either permanent or temporary. Permanent workaround addresses fundamental flaw that is unpatched, whereas a newly discovered vulnerability may need a temporary workaround until a patch is made available. Yes. Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah.
Top 10 lists. Highlight potential problems and focus on important activities. So vulnerabilities by host, by count, traffic by volume, traffic volume by device. We used to have like a target, you know, the red and white.
Yes.
And we used to have the computers spread all over that target. And the more internal you are, the less bandwidth that you're using.
Oh.
And out further, you're using more and more bandwidth.
Good point.
And we're like, why are they using that much bandwidth?
Wow, that's
So somebody would walk by their computer and go, oh, they're watching movies, or they're listening to Spotify, or, you know, whatever it was at that point in time.
Yep, that's too fast.
Yeah.
Yep.
Protocols. Protocols by volume. There are some protocols that take up a lot of space. Inbound traffic protocols by volume. Outbound by volume.
Yeah.
Say FTP, if you're uploading or downloading a lot of files. Top external IP connections. Email volume by user. Malware alerts by user. So in your company, do you have like an email PDF type limit?
Yes.
3 megs or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. I always had a, oh my gosh, a paralegal going, why isn't this document going through?
They get mad too, boy. Oh.
Because it's 50 megs.
Right. And Outlook Exchange can't handle it. Exactly.
You can't, I mean, I compressed it, I'm sorry, but it won't go through.
Right. Yeah, what is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we make it go to a cloud and we upload it to a Docker and then, you know, download it, you know, there's all kind of ways, but
Yeah.
BitLocker and stuff, yeah.
Yeah. Compliance, regulatory compliance reports. So they are basically done by assessors, right?
Okay, right.
Because they're compliance reports.
Yeah.
An assessor comes in, qualified personnel, they have the information that they're looking for, they're going to look for that, internal audit, employee training records, risk assessments, they're going to look at the compliance report content, dictated by relevant legal requirements. It's like It's like a tax audit. They're gonna come in and they're gonna look at everything that they need to see.
Okay.
They may not need to see everything, not all 27,000 controls, but they have a little section that they specifically look at.
Okay.
Internal compliance reports, assessments of endpoint patching and configuration. So your the users' machines, it's like the patching done on that one company. Well, it works better with the malware. It's because the malware couldn't run without it being patched. You know. Adherence, employee adherence to established procedures. They can be locked down. Vendor maintenance practices, change management practices, user account management, and there's tons of other areas that it can go into. Hopefully audit reports are done on, user accounts. Are there any that have too many permissions? What do they have here? What about their passwords? Are they good enough? Do you guys have CACs?
Yeah.
Do you? That's good. So then you don't have to worry about those. Okay. KPIs. Measure progress towards goals. Identify areas for improvement, and they measure effectiveness of cybersecurity program. So I was over a 2-state help desk.
Oh, wow.
I was a PMP for that.
Wow.
And we were measuring KPIs all the time,
Oh, yes.
Time per call, how many calls did you take? What
Yes.
kind of tickets did you close? What, this and that and the other. And so the KPIs are a really good measurement of different things, but I think that they're a cold measurement because you don't take into account, hey, we've got Hank here, and Hank is a real people person, and he spends the time with people to educate them on what's going on. It does take them a little bit longer to close a ticket out,
Right.
but the people feel like they've been,
Service. Higher promoted
hugged,
staff. Yeah, great.
so basically, yeah.
NPS.
Yeah.
Yes.
Detection time, okay, so that's next. Example of KPIs, incidents tracked over time, look for upward or downward trends, detection time, how incident response efforts are improving, compare the detection time to industry averages. I think it's terrible to use an average, but, I guess you have to. IOCs, indicator of compromise, determine if IOCs are increasing or decreasing. Threats indicate a number of identified or known threats, and then determine if the number increases. Let's hope it doesn't. Risk assessment. Organizations can compare risk assessments over other organizations or with resource allocation. How much do we need for that? And when I think of resource allocation, we had one guy that would go in and do dynamic memory with VMs in Microsoft.
Wow.
Okay. Now, dynamic memory does not work in Microsoft for a VM.
Okay.
Because you can say you can take up this much RAM and then give it back to the system. It doesn't give it back.
Oh.
So basically, then it just takes over more RAM, and other servers start running slower.
Wow.
So every time I would go in and uncheck the dynamic memory, because Microsoft doesn't know how to do it. Now, VMware knows how to allocate and then give it back. So I always think of resource allocation as being like that dynamic memory.
Yeah.
It's like, how much do we need to give you? And then we need to look at that again. Do you really need that much? How are you running comparatively? Allocation to different areas, and determine if the appropriate resources allocated to each function are appropriate.
Okay.
Challenges of using KPIs, they can be subjective. So it can be challenged to determine the actual number of incidents. You can use different scales, for Pete's sake. And it's not gonna work, the same metrics aren't gonna work for every organization. False positives may record false positives, skewing the data. Inaccurate cybersecurity landscape data, maybe capturing accurate data about current threats and trends. That's good. Irrelevant data, it doesn't have anything to do with us. And KPI-based decision making is complicated. So often complex, you need data analytics and advanced software tools to be able to understand what's going on.
Okay.
SLO, not SLA. Service level objectives are essential in a customer-oriented operation. SLOs, SLO, provide a benchmark by which security operations can measure their performance and help ensure they meet leadership's expectations. SLO, additionally, should be flexible and adaptable as the cybersecurity landscape and organizations' capabilities change over time. What dashboards provide a live view of critical data and are composed of graphs, charts, status indicators, and other visual representations?
Vulnerability reporting dashboard.
What assessment measures the risk posed by a particular system, application, or individual vulnerability in terms of being successfully hacked or breached?
Risk score, I believe. Risk score. Yeah, risk
What
score.
can be challenging? Why can it be challenging to determine the actual number of security incidents?
Yeah. I guess I'm thinking about that from reading the notes. It says number of incidents such as cyber breaches, cyber attacks, organizations can track this over time if it's upward or downward trend. But I guess they could be different detections times. The IOCs could be different. It's some companies have more IOCs, some less. What do you think?
No, I agree.
Oh, yeah.
Because things change all the time.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's my opinion. Things are always changing in the IT world. The landscape changes.
Okay. Threats, assessments. Automated tracking system. There we go, spreadsheet.
Action plans. Ooh. What are we gonna do? How are we gonna do this? Who's gonna be involved? What's gonna happen? Let's get this fixed.
That's true.
Okay. Action plans provide direction and focus, strategic goals and objectives, measure how to measure progress, outline the steps, resources, and timelines required, tailored to each organization's unique needs, regularly updated to reflect changes in the business environment. Okay. Explore common action plan outcomes, establishing the security policies. They should already be established, but we might have to look at changing some up because of things changing, or introducing new policy. Okay. Training the staff. Do you guys have staff training every once in a while?
Yes. I've had all of my companies. Yep, we had staff training. Gel when we had it, KPMG, King Spalding.
Did they call them lunch and learns?
Yeah, we call them lunch and learns. AT&T, big time. We always have it. Well, no one would come, but as IT, we would have to set up the webinar. So I would be there, obviously, manning the Microsoft Teams or WebEx or whatever conference system we're going. But most people are so busy between 12 and 1 to do those lunch and learns. But it was great when I watched. I listened to all kind of stuff. Yeah.
Software patching, that's a whole different department in itself. You know, it's like watching the WSUS, what's coming through, seeing if it's something that they would need to be interested in, testing it out, putting change management in. This is what we need, and then scheduling it and then doing it. So that's a whole thing. Any kind of compensating controls that we can do are always good. I did a rollout for Millington base a while ago, and in that rollout we had the pilots wanted a specifically low profile laptop. And so we got them the laptop, and they started bringing them in and saying, touch this. They would turn it over and it would be hot. I mean,
Oh wow,
literally
that much
hot.
heat running on things.
One started, you could see some start to ripple.
Ooh, it's really running. Wow.
We're like, whoa, that's just really weird. They're like, yeah, it burns your lap.
Yeah,
You know,
and they
using
got a
the
leg
laptop.
around their leg. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of scorches your leg. So anyways, it's like, okay, hello, gal. What's going on here? We found a 0-day vulnerability, right? So they said, well, we have no idea. We've never heard of that before. So it's like, okay, so what do you think we should do? Well, we don't know. We'll get back with you. You know, it's like, oh, thanks, Del. You know,
Right.
thanks a lot. So we started going through and saying, what do you think it could be? So we started comparing things, and we noticed that the BIOS was different on the laptop than it was on the website. There's a flash, right? So we flashed the BIOS and fixed it. And I'm like, well, that was kind of a lucky break, really.
Right.
And we didn't have that many laptops out there, so we just put an email out to all the pilots and said, hey, when you're on base, come on in, we'll flash the BIOS of your machine, fix the firmware, and your heating problem will be gone. So it's like,
Awesome.
yeah.
Wow. Did you ever find out what the actual number of that particular, threat was? You never found it out.
And it was physical. It wasn't any kind of
It's physical issue.
basically, yeah, because it was hot. It had to do with, eventually it would have affected everything in there, the OS, everything,
yeah.
it just ran slower because it was really hot. But
Right.
yeah, it was interesting.
So if you have a computer running hot like that, you probably would suggest go hit that BIOS if it's always running, because I got a computer just like that at the house that's running hot, which is weird. Zzz, you can hear that engine, running. Yeah.
That could be the hard drive, though, too.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
that could be
thinking.
But yeah, it doesn't hurt to flash the BIOS every
Okay.
once in a while. Go
Okay.
flash the BIOS.
Okay.
Yeah. Compensating controls, we know that flat tire, basically, right?
BIOS. Wow.
The donut. And the configuration management. Those configurations are a big, huge thing.
Gotcha.
All right, leadership and management. Security teams and organizational leaders often work in silos.
That's right.
Chinese walls are not good
Nope.
at all. And therefore, we need to be on the same page. However, that is not going to happen in any big organization because there's always a lack of communication. Leadership teams may make decisions about operations that severely impact the environments. Security, okay. That's not good. Security teams may not fully comprehend impacts of security-focused decisions on staff productivity. Okay. Well, here's the thing. They have doctors working, 48 hours or something like that, continually?
40.
72?
Yeah.
Something like that. How well can their judge? Of course, it's going to be like muscle control, because we've learned these types of things. If this is happening, then it's this. But it's like, how much can they handle if we overwork them, type thing, and you have a satisfied worker, there's a big, huge security concern.
That's true.
So
That's not a
there's
threat. Yeah.
An MOU. What is an MOU?
Memorandum of Understanding.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
But what is it?
It's a non-legal binding agreement. The key word is non-legal. That's the biggest.
Yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Used to be that a handshake between men was their word.
That's right.
That
A
was
word is
it.
bond. That's right.
Now it takes some written memorandum of understanding.
Oh no.
Yeah, so
Wow.
handshake is not legal.
Wow.
Memorandum of understanding is not legal.
Mhm.
But at least we've got something in writing to show somebody,
Yeah.
hey, we shook hands on this. You know.
Mhm. But SLA is though.
No, absolutely,
Mhm,
absolutely. We sign SLAs, we just don't know it.
Uh-huh.
When we go and get our carrier for our phone,
Really?
our iPad,
Huh.
that's an SLA.
Huh.
That contract. They don't
Huh.
call it
No.
SLA, but they call it a
Huh.
contract. Yep. Because if you decide to cancel early, they're going to say you owe us this much money. You owe us
You're
this
right.
much money,
You're
right?
Right.
You can sue them for not being available at the time they said they're going to be available.
Mhm.
Whether they give 99% or 99.99999%.
The 4 nines. Yeah.
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 So always a percentage in there. And
Mhm.
organizational governance, and governance again
Mhm.
is the umbrella. So we've got all the rules, all the security evaluations and everything underneath those.
Mhm.
Pressure overshadows security initiatives.
Mhm.
High costs of new security tools and software. Yeah, I know the government always runs on, old equipment and doesn't have the newest things. Security evaluations slow down operations, you think?
Yeah.
Board of directors may push back and override plans.
Mm.
Can they? It's governance.
Yeah.
Can they do that? Security initiatives may disrupt strategic plans, cause conflicts, and upset stakeholders.
Mm.
Well, how much money do you want to lose? Because we're going to have to strategically, which is a huge operation, do this. Southwest Airlines experienced a significant outage during holiday travel at the end of 2022, with estimated costs of $825 million.
Wow.
Business process interruption. I don't know if you remember the Ashley Madison hack.
Oh yeah, we said there's a video I watched on Netflix about the guy that getting hacked. That's the Ferris website, I believe, right? The website for fairs. Something like that. No?
Mm-mm.
Ashley Madison. I'm not sure. Well,
Ashley Madison was hacked not too long ago. It's their mission is life is too short not to have an affair.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
So basically, the disruption is we have email addresses and passwords of all your users.
Right.
Close down the site, or we expose all those people, and
Right.
they did eventually.
Right.
There were lots of judges and
Lot of-
lawyers
yes,
and
I remember.
government officials and
Yes.
stuff like that
Mm-hmm.
that ended up getting divorced because of Ashley Madison.
Right.
However, I don't know if it was a big marketing ploy or if it was, activists or hacktivists
Mhm,
actually
mhm.
trying to take care of something that they saw that wasn't right.
Right.
It's somebody's decision. It's like they do or they don't, doesn't really matter.
Mm.
Disruption in an organization's normal operations causes minor or significant impacts.
Mm.
Now, it costs the president of that company his job. And I don't know why I didn't follow this story, but basically it was like kind of weird, but it
Mhm.
impacted it, right?
Oh yeah.
The Target hack impacted their business.
True.
It impacted my bank account.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know what? That's not fair.
No, it's not.
Degraded functionality, employee frustration, decreased efficiency, reduced performance, increased costs for repairs or replacements, yeah. So whether it's a design flaw, whether it's a rack that's got too much spaghetti on it, right? You can't see anything. Something I just want to go out there and pull all the pieces and just rewire it. It just bothers me to death. Degraded functionality. Okay. Legacy systems rarely updated, if at all. Why not make a VM out of them and run them in a safe environment?
Right.
You can still use them.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Legacy systems, code is difficult to maintain. That's one of the problems. Modernizing is frequently daunting.
Yeah.
Upgrades require significant time, money, and resources. Business risk migration, or migrating data and changing code. So we are a good example of that. My bosses, they hate change.
Oh, really?
Had a super old financial database that they were running on. And they did not want to change it at all, but it got so that we were we had the Emitat virus. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No.
Emitat was 5 different payloads in
Okay.
there, and it affected everything in the business.
Wow.
And when that hit, we're like, we told you that this could happen because you have ancient software running on it. You need to. So it did cost them some money. They did get updated a little bit. So
That's good.
that's one of those legacy systems. Proprietary systems, we talked about SCADA and ICS,
Yep.
PCLs. Identified security vulnerabilities often create overwhelming trouble for in-house teams. Security changes depend on the application's architectural structure. Poor architectural design choices made early in development create huge problems when security changes begin. All right. What provides direction and focus in enabling your organizations to achieve strategic goals and objectives? Let's get busy.
All right.
Let's do it.
Do it.
What are they?
Action plan. Gotta have an action plan.
What is released by developers that often represents a first line of defense against exploitation of software vulnerabilities?
First line of defense. First line of patch. Security patch. Yeah. Yep.
True or false? Memorandum of understanding is a legally.
False. That's
Yeah.
false.
I knew I only had to go there.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's an outline of expectations between 2 or more parties and can help parties resolve disputes during times of conflict. I've never really seen an explanation.
Yeah, me
It's a
neither.
good one.
It is.
Dude, detecting legacy systems.
Okay, so got that one too.
So down to detecting legacy
So let's
systems.
go there. All right, so that's where we'll start right now. Awesome. Okay. Go back in. All right, continue. All right. So I'm gonna start my labs here for a few hours. I'm still here, if you don't mind. I'm gonna stay here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Don't get you in trouble.
No.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't care.
Yeah, we appreciate it. No, I
Yeah,
think I can
stay for
study.
an hour. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
good.
All right.
I appreciate it though.
Oh, no problem.
It's the company. When the CEO sees vulnerabilities in terms of dollar amounts, action happens much quicker because they're speaking the same language.
In this case, all the research and development, frankly, China would have loved to get their hands on it if they didn't already have it. If you were going to ask me, I'll bet China did have it by that point in time.
Years later, the company gets a new CISO, and Ira asks him about the Chinese intelligence operation across the street. The CISO told Ira.
Oh yeah, we actually made a dozen arrests out of that restaurant.
The FBI was able to dismantle this Chinese intelligence operation. This could have went on for years if it wasn't for Ira and his team. A squad so good that they can blend in their
Can you
surroundings.
see him?
No, I'm listening to
Oh,
it.
okay.
Yeah, well, I'm studying. Yeah, but it's great.
Not acting like James Bond
I
and
can
shooting
visualize it.
places like the scene, but instead they're more stealth. They might be the one asking
I
you
wanted
for
to
a
see
small
him. He
reward.
sounds so young.
I don't. Is he young?
I don't know.
Oh,
Perhaps the next time you go out, you can start looking
Sounds
for
young,
anything out of place. Someone might be acting too nice, but also asking a lot of questions. Or you might notice that guy in the corner of the Chinese restaurant eating alone with a Russian accent. Spies are among us. You've been listening to Darknet Diaries. If you like Diary's story and want to hear more, you're in luck. He wrote numerous books. Spies Among Us is one of the books he wrote, which has great stories just like this one. Like he tells a story about how his team was able to steal nuclear reactor plans in under 3 hours. He's currently in the process of updating the book, so look for a newer version of that soon. If you want to know more of how to protect your company from attacks like this, check out the book Advanced Persistent Security. You can also go to securementum.com to learn more about what Ira does. And if you want to know more about Stan, check out the book Through the Eyes of the Enemy. It's Stan's autobiography, and Ira actually helped co-author the book. Links to these will be in the show notes. This show is made by me, Jack Resider. Story editing is by Stephanie Jens. Some songs were made by Wesley Slover, and the theme music is made by the esoteric Breakmaster Cylinder. Also, please visit darknetdiaries.com/donate to help support this show. It really means a lot to me. Thank you. Just as a warning up front, there's some clips of violence in this episode, such as gunfights and terrorist attacks. If that kind of thing bothers you, then you might want to skip this one. Mosul. That sounds like a good place to start this story. Mosul is an ancient city in Iraq. Like, we're talking people have lived there in the area of Mosul since like 2000 BC.
That's right.
It's right next to the Tigris River. And it's grown to a population of, over 1.5 million people. It's Iraq's second largest city. On June 10th, 2014, a new chapter in Mosul's history was written. A group of armed fighters, basically an army, just raided the place. ISIS infiltrated Mosul. They shot it up, set stuff on fire, and they were targeting all Iraqi police and military and security. In just a few days, they took over the whole city of Mosul. The whole city of 1 million people. People began fleeing the city in huge droves. Hundreds of thousands of people left or were killed. Mosul was now under control of ISIS, the Islamic State, an extremist group, a group that the U.S. believes is made up of violent jihadist terrorists. That same month, ISIS declared a caliphate in Mosul.
ISIS, which stands for the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, says now it will simply be known as the Islamic State. And it declared all areas it's overtaken in Syria and Iraq to be a caliphate.
That's right.
Or Islamic State.
That's
a
right.
significant move.
As far as I understand, declaring a caliphate means that they are establishing that the city of Mosul is the Islamic State. Like it's sort of their own nation. It's a place to go live and practice their beliefs. Anyone who's affiliated with ISIS can come live there. And ISIS had their own police patrolling the city, their own soldiers defending it, their own leadership, everything. This was a huge victory for the terrorists. To take over the second largest city in Iraq and kill thousands of their enemies, this is what put ISIS on the map. This is why they are a common household name here in the US, because since they took over Mosul, their numbers soared and their attacks reigned the world. These are true stories from the dark side of the internet.
I had the dark side. The dark side.
I'm Jack Resider.
This dude, you good, bro? You good? You
These
good?
Darknet Diaries.
You are good. All right, though. See.
Once ISIS took over Mosul and declared a caliphate, their popularity boomed.
Okay.
Tens of thousands of people around the world were learning what ISIS was, and they were joining the cause. We started to see attacks in many other cities around the world.
Okay, so I'll
ISIS
just go ahead and
was
answer. I'll
taking
just do it.
responsibility
Look
for
at local
what they did.
policies.
We were starting to see attacks in Belgium, Australia, Canada. And when I say attacks, I mean people were being killed by this group.
Today, the militant group ISIS posted a series of graphic photos on Twitter claiming a massacre of more than 1,700 Iraqi soldiers.
Tonight, the urgent manhunt right now after the the city of Brussels is rocked with multiple explosions at the airport and in the subway. At least 31 killed, more than 200 injured.
2 people are dead tonight in Ottawa, a Canadian soldier and a suspect, after a shooting on Parliament Hill, Canada's equivalent of Capitol Hill. A violent morning that culminated in a shootout inside the ornate building where lawmakers were caucusing.
Gosh, that sounds so scary. And that's not the streets of Iraq. That's ISIS shooting up the Parliament building in the capital of Canada. The Iraqi military simply didn't have the ability to take back their own city. And with ISIS growing in numbers all over the world, something had to be done. So in October 2014, the U.S. military initiated Executive Order Operation Inherent Resolve.
Okay, so what is the Navy's role in Inherent Resolve, which is the new name of the anti-ISIS coalition movement?
We provide sorties, meaning missions, off of our aircraft carrier, the George Herbert Walker Bush. Some of it is just information, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance. Others are strikes, and it depends on what the central commander desires. It can be jamming of some of ISIS's networks and what they're doing. It can be, again, intelligence gathering. We are standing by with Tomahawk missiles, tens and tens of them, which in fact we used on that first night when we started this operation.
Jeez, Tomahawk missiles? This is serious business. And yes, that Navy ship was launching these missiles right into Mosul, raining down one attack after another, taking out ISIS infrastructure, some key leaders, their troops. But tens of thousands of people formed ISIS, so it wasn't easy to stop them with airstrikes alone. ISIS continued to take over towns in Iraq and Syria, and claimed responsibility for more terrorist attacks around the world. And one of these attacks occurred in November 2015, Paris, France.
9:20 p.m. The first indication of the horror being unleashed that night. A suicide bomber exploding his vest outside France's national soccer stadium. There was a second detonation, another suicide bomber. Both attackers, it seems, had been stopped before they could get in. A third attacker would blow himself up outside a nearby McDonald's. Around 9:25, gunmen with Kalashnikov-type assault weapons targeted diners at a string of restaurants. 15 people were killed. The gunman raced away in a black car. Next, the Café Lombière was hit. 5 people were killed. At 9:36, at La Belle Équipe, sheer terror. The same black car. The crowded terrace sprayed with gunfire. Witnesses say it went on and on. 19 people died here. 9 others were critically injured. The epicenter of the attack, though, would be the Bataclan, a concert venue. As the band Eagles of Death metal played, gunmen rushed the hall and opened fire. Those who escaped, the survivors, called it a massacre, a mass execution. 89 people were killed.
This was bad. And other attacks were springing up all over the world. Operation Inherent Resolve needed more help to battle these terrorists. Here's a clip from one of the captains on the carrier stationed in the Persian Gulf, which was launching missiles at ISIS.
The airstrikes can only do so much, and we're very effective, and we're there to support. But I think in the end, it's going to be a ground fight.
They needed more help to stop these terrorists, so some phone calls were made. Hello.
Jack, hey, it's going?
Good to hear from you. Thanks so much. Sorry, in this one, I can't say our guest's name. You'll understand later. But for now, let's just call him the commander.
This is kind of a fanboy moment in myself, to be honest.
Okay, you're gonna wonder how I got this interview, because as you'll hear, this is an extremely rare interview, and I'll explain how I got all that at the end of this episode. But I do want you to understand more about who he is.
Okay, so in 2016, I was the mission commander for a combat mission team at U.S. Cybercom.
Yeah, U.S. Cyber Command is believed to be the offensive team within the NSA. Or actually, it came out of the NSA, but now it's its own thing. So yeah, you got that right. Today, we're going to hear a hacking story from someone inside the U.S. Cyber Command, which is a very secret hacking organization within the U.S. government, which makes this an extremely rare interview. So, are you ready for this? Okay, so let's back up. The commander here wasn't always a commander. He started out as a regular recruit in the Marines, but quickly he knew he wanted more.
So I actually started, I was a Force Recon Marine for my first 5 years. So I jumped out of planes, I did the Halo, scuba dive, all that stuff.
Whoa, this guy's a beast. I mean, my understanding is that the Marines train you to be a killer. It's a very aggressive branch of the military, but Force Recon amplifies that immensely. They're the highest trained troops in the Marines.
Y'all the best, though.
And in 2012, he was deployed to Afghanistan in the Sangin province, a tough place. And he was trying to neutralize the Taliban over there, doing kilo raids and other operations. And after a few years of that, he came back and spent a total of 5 years as an active Force Recon Marine.
You get older, things get harder physically. So the way to stay in the fight is to use cyber.
Yeah.
The Marines give you a little wiggle room on where you can choose you want to go. So he decided to join the Marine Forces Cyber Command. But with this switch, they knew they needed to give him some training.
They did. They sent me to school for larger cybersecurity stuff, just basic security plus, network plus, CEH.
Hey,
and
all right.
They did put us through some more technical training.
Yeah.
Computer network exploitation boot camps, and cyber attack and defend.
Yep.
And eventually you attend the mission commander course. Where my role was as an officer.
So at this point, he's an officer for MARFORCE Cyber. That's short for Marine Forces Cyber Command. Okay. Now, let me read to you a paraphrased version of the mission statement for this group, MARFORCE Cyber. The mission statement is, quote, to conduct full-spectrum cyberspace operations, including conducting offensive cyberspace operations, end quote. Whew. Listen to that. They conduct offensive cyberspace operations. I once heard the U.S. government has never admitted to conducting any cyberspace attacks. But look at this. It's right here in the mission statement of MARFORCE Cyber. And when I think about the mindset that the Marines have and how they're so competitive and gung-ho and battle-hungry, I just can't imagine what kind of hackers would come out of this.
Everybody always says, oh, we're shooting cyber bullets today, we're going out on patrol. It's funny, but it's true. And then, we always try to keep that kind of mindset, especially in the Marines. The Marines are known to be more aggressive, and that was not different in cyber. Our team was the first to do a lot of things.
It's you're a computer geek or you're buff, like you're a buff guy, right? Like which one is it, or is it both?
You're both.
Yeah, there's a lot of buff dudes in cyber.
That's right.
But it's pretty funny. I mean, we still do all of that same kind of stuff. I know that people have some traditions when you're for your first cyber mission on the ops floor, they'll make you wear a flak jacket or a helmet to look goofy when you're sitting in front of the computer because it's your first op. So that tradition still comes into play in some of the op floors today. So there is still that, military mindset of messing with people and things like that. I mean, it's pretty funny. I find it fun.
So this is how he transformed from being a trained killer to a capable hacker. He's on a new mission to battle the enemy behind the screen.
Yeah, we're all sitting in front of a computer screen, 4 screens, just like in the movies. Everybody's in uniform, working on things. If you're at, very sensitive locations and sites, you'll be out of uniform and things like that. But at Fort Meade, you're in uniform the whole time. The fall of 2014, I was finishing up all my training, and they had just started a team between NSA and Cybercom that was focused solely on ISIS media.
Ah, yes, back to ISIS. So ISIS, or sometimes it's called ISIL, produces a ton of media content. I mean, they have 2 magazines that are published in 10 different languages, and these magazines are excellent quality too. They're very well done. High quality pictures from the front lines and expertly designed. They also have a ton of social media accounts that post news stories and even act as recruitment tools for new members. And they also have people producing high quality videos, filming horrific things and editing them and cleaning them up to maximize the impact to the viewer. To run all this, they must have a whole network to share content between the teams, to store the videos and pictures, and then a bunch of skilled people to run everything.
So ISIS media was everything that involved the production of their magazines, the videos that everyone saw come out, the logos, the attack claims, all of the social media accounts that they had, the websites, everything that was associated with that was what was under the umbrella of ISIS Media. And they had a lot of people. I mean, we're talking cameramen, we're talking editors, we're talking, linguists for translating things into every language across the world so that they could disseminate their message. You have your own IT shops and, finance guys. I mean, it was a large scale operation. And you could see that in like all the videos that came out. They were Hollywood quality videos that were hitting CNN and ABC on a daily basis almost. And that was all ISIS Media.
So, since the US government was already using intelligence operations to keep tabs on ISIS, they felt that ISIS Media was big enough to create a team to just focus on this alone.
So, ISIS Media had been on the scene for about a year before that, and then in 2014, the fall, it was finally becoming so big that it was its own entity and warranted its own dedicated analysis, production, targeting effort. And that's where they pulled a few Marines together, a few civilians, and started a pretty crack-knit team. And then I took over the team at the end of the year in 2014.
Oh, wow. This is very interesting, right? From Force Recon Marine to Marforce Cyber, and now to the NSA and Cyber Command to gather as much information as he can on ISIS Media. So ISIS Media became his primary focus. All day, every day, him and his team were there doing everything they could to understand who's behind this.
We were trying to map out the network. So everything that made ISIS Media tick was what we were supposed to uncover and define. So people, places, things, everything behind it. The analogy I give people is like, if you look at CNN, or you look at a regional news office, they have senior editors, they have people that do translations, they have a web guy that sets up the website, they have a guy that configures domain names, a guy that, their IT staff that keeps the shared drives running, keeps the email accounts up, their chat services up, so that they can conduct their daily business. And you have your field journalists and cameramen and all of that stuff.
Their goal was to simply gather data, basically spy on them and collect as much data as they could from this group. And they did this for a long time.
2014 all the way through to summer of 2016 was analysis, development, building out the network, understanding how they operated, what they did. That was, it was over, we spent a year and a half just understanding the target space and building out a high fidelity network.
Just to give you an idea of where we are on the timeline, this is still before ISIS invaded Mosul and declared a caliphate. And here already, the NSA and US Cyber Command are tracking them heavily. Now, can you imagine how much data they collected in this time? We're talking the NSA and Cyber Command here, and dedicating a whole team to investigate this for 2 solid years? By that time, and with those resources, I'm sure they must have had everyone's name who was behind ISIS Media, and where it was edited, who's running the social media accounts, what software they're running, and I bet that goes so much deeper. He didn't say, but I bet they hacked into all these people too. They had access to their phones and laptops and facilities, everything, to gather as much data as they could. Probably even their spouses and relatives and bosses and friends too. I bet they were infecting all these systems and burrowing their way deep into the ISIS Media network, and then establishing persistence to maintain their foothold in there. Because if you think about this is all going on in the same building that the NSA headquarters are in Fort Meade, Maryland, that big black box of a building that I'm sure you've seen pictures of. So if they needed more help, they could just walk down the hall and get another group of people who are specialized in something to help them out. I'm just guessing here, but here's an attack I think they probably did. First, imagine if they hacked into the phone of one of these ISIS Media people, and then on that phone they stole the private decryption keys for that phone. This would be the key used to decrypt messages to that phone. Then imagine they hacked into the Wi-Fi network that phone was on and somehow captured all the traffic to that phone. Now, somewhere in that traffic are the private chat messages to that phone. And with these private keys, I'm guessing it's technically possible to decrypt those messages. And this would be a pretty complex hack, but I bet it's something that US Cyber Command could do.
I mean, we had a long target list, and it was a large, you think of like a large graph, just pictures, servers, domains, accounts, all connected with lines, and it was all, we had a pretty good understanding of the whole thing.
I can just picture it now, a big map on the wall, linking everything together with photos of everyone. And it probably looks like a map that the FBI would create when building a case on someone. Red strings connecting everything together.
I feel like there's very few people that know as much about ISIS media as me and a couple other guys on the team. In 2015, if you remember, in the summer and early fall, that's when ISIS attacks started to really pick up, and they started to have those horrific videos and beheadings and kidnappings of Westerners. And the leadership, Congress, and Secretary Carter at the time were getting fed up with all of this going on and having it be all over the news. So people were getting a little angry in leadership, and they wanted something done about it. And we weren't really doing any ops to counter it at that time.
So because they had extensive knowledge of ISIS media, they started to think, would it be possible for us to actually disrupt them instead of just spy on them? So they started to devise some plans to actually take down some of ISIS media. They were developing tactical cyber attacks to take out a website or take control of it or delete an entire server. They came up with a plan to take out just part of a network in one country as sort of a test run to see how effective this would be.
Made it so that we had some confidence in what we could do and our abilities. And then, General Hawk came back and was like, what do we do now? Like, how much bigger can we go? What's the next step? And then we said, we can go global. Let's go global. Instead of one country or two countries. Let's go global. Let's do everything.
After the break, we'll hear how this mission went global. Stay with us. The commander felt like he had the skills and expertise to take out more of ISIS media, but the leadership wasn't sure if this was the right course of action. They needed something else.
And the icing on the cake was November. You had the Paris attacks, which were the horrible Paris attacks, and that kind of was the final straw to where before early December and before Christmas, Secretary Carter said, I want options. We have to do something big now. Up until November 2015, it was all sit, listen, and enable other kinetic operations for the guys on the ground, help inform them to do certain things. And there wasn't a mindset or an appetite at the time for, hey, let's do a strictly cyber operation to try and stop this media or try to diminish their impact of an attack in the publicity side of things. We were ready at a tactical level, I felt like, but there wasn't that appetite at higher levels to say, oh, we can do something that's purely cyber and have an impact on this terrorist apparatus that's over there.
He was looking over his big map of ISIS media, looking over all the connections, drawing a connection from this system to that network, and this person, and making all these connections. And he was looking at the map, and all of a sudden, it started to make sense. Things became crystal clear. There were a few key nodes that if you were to disrupt or take out these key nodes, the whole thing might come crashing down. This was a big discovery for the commander. He double-checked his work and looked over it again, and yeah, this was making sense. This was the way to take out ISIS media, attack these nodes, and it all unravels.
That's when I had my aha moment, like my Pepe Sylvia moment. We've been staring at this data for a long time, and all of these lists and information, and then in February it kind of struck me that draw on the board circles with names and numbers and drawing the lines together and then saying, sir, it's all connected, it's all here. We take this out, it all goes away, or these 5 things, it'll all fall apart. It's a house of cards.
This was a big moment. The leadership agreed that perhaps using hacking to take out ISIS media would be an effective approach. With this strategy, a new task force had to be created to handle this. First, they decided to start creating Joint Task Force Ares, or JTF Ares for short. Now, JTF Ares was formed to carry out a specific mission.
JTF Ares is just cyber specialists that focus in offensive cyber operations against ISIS.
Wow, wicked. A group of military-trained hackers all coming together to make Joint Task Force Ares, specifically to target ISIS and ISIS media. While this task force was getting spun up, the captains had to decide on what the mission would be. Now, in my opinion, this is where a major shift in operations took place. You see, we know that the military and the NSA collects data, and they listen for signals and decipher the messages. Yeah, sometimes they break into a computer to get that data, but still that's all it is. It's gathering data from the adversary. But here is where a big change takes place. See, up until this point, all this team was doing was listening and watching and collecting. Yeah, they hacked into the enemy to listen and collect, but that's all they were instructed and legally allowed to do. But now, leadership is granting them the ability to disrupt, degrade, and destroy the target using cyber attacks. This is a big difference. It's kind of like the difference between someone on the roof with a pair of binoculars versus someone on the roof with a long-barreled rifle and a scope with orders to kill. You see the difference? They were never allowed to weaponize their hacks to destroy before, but now they're getting permission to do this. So I think this is about to get a little hairy. But first things first, they need to come up with a name for this cyber operation.
So that is a funny story, and I'm glad that I get to tell you that. The way that military operations are named is that every unit in a specific AO, in a specific area, gets assigned 2 letters. So, and those 2 letters have to be the first part of the word that starts their operation. So GL was assigned to Marine Operations from Cyber Command. And so we had to pick the first word to make the operation, so GL. So we sat down a bunch of captains and tried to come up with the most badass words that started with GL. So we were like gladiator, gladius, global, and then the second word in the name of an operation is just whatever you want it to be. So you could do gladiator something or global something. They would all be global XYZ, global ABC. And so we were coming up with all these cool names or things that we thought were cool. And then it came down from higher, but they were like, the word is glowing. Like, seriously? Glowing? That's so not cool. Let's pick something that's, more badass, that's more hardcore. But that was what higher told us. And then the symphony part came from, in Marine basic training, when you're calling for fire, so when you have artillery and air support and mortars and machine guns all shooting at the enemy, they say that it's a symphony of destruction, because it's boom, 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 like in a movie when they play the soundtrack and all the stuff's blowing up. So it's a symphony of destruction. And we just say we're trying to have a symphony of destruction against the enemy here and take down all of the ISIS servers, domains, emails, whatever, at the same time. It's going to be great. And then one captain who was the quirkiest one of the group was like, well, that's the name, Glowing Symphony. We were like, that's so lame, man, it can't be that. And he wrote it down and then sent the email so that it became Glowing Symphony, and there was no turning back.
Okay.
I know that was a lot to talk about, but there's only like 10 people know that.
Yeah, I love it. So in May of 2016, Task Order 16-0063 was signed by President Barack Obama, and Operation Glowing Symphony was a go, or OGS for short. And JTF Ares was tasked to execute Operation Glowing Symphony with their first mission to take out ISIS media.
I wasn't JTF Ares, I was the mission commander for that specific team.
This is why I call him the commander, because he's the mission commander for all this.
I was a mission commander is a cybercom term, and a mission commander is the one who oversees a specific cyber op or a mission for that day. So it'd be the same as if a unit goes out on a patrol and walks around enemy territory and comes back. The leader of that patrol is a cyber mission commander, and that's what I was.
Okay, here we go. Time to get ready to fire some cyber bullets. The commander just spent the last 2 years learning everything about ISIS media and is more than ready to carry out this mission. But first, he needed some troops. He was able to look around in the NSA and Cyber Command and different military branches to find the right candidates.
Yeah, we definitely handpicked them. So we assembled, I think it was 4 or 5 separate teams.
Think of each team like a squad of soldiers infiltrating enemy territory, doing a patrol and an objective. And each squad has to be independent on their own, being able to make decisions and look for the objective and execute on it. So they had to start assembling these teams.
There were 4 people per team. So we had an intel analyst, an operator, a SigDev analyst, and then we had the kind of like team leader.
So first, let's look at what an operator does.
You had a guy who's an operator, and he is very skilled at setting up the infrastructure, getting to a target and getting from a target. And then also he's trained on the tools and approved on the tools to use on target.
Interesting. Not everyone on the team was approved to hit that delete button or the enter key. Only the operator was allowed to actually execute on objective. But not only that, this would be an expert on computers, knowing what exploits to use to get into things and how to move around a network once you get in. This is probably one of their best trained hackers on the team.
The person that would sit next to him is like the SigDev signals analyst, who understands the tools and the infrastructure, but also understands the intricacies of the target. So like directory structures, domain names, domain admins, and things like that. He'll know the larger target network and be able to provide the context to that guy on the keyboard.
This is so fascinating. This is kind of like a navigator or something.
Yeah, right.
Somebody who knows the lay of the land so well and is like, okay, here's where the next objective is, and here's where you have to go next, and here's where this thing will be. And if you go down this way, then you're going to find this next thing. Like, it's crazy that there's just some person sitting there who knows all this stuff, ready to help.
And then we have another intel analyst who is to the other side, and that intel analyst understands the typical targeting charts. So the face, the phone number, the friends, the terrorist group, the cells, the homes, the address, all that stuff. He understands that larger picture and can help them when they're on target of navigating through things.
This is another really valuable person to have on the other side of you. This is someone who's memorized faces and names and friends' names and locations. Because as you're working your way through this strange foreign network, you're going to come across words that just don't make any sense. Things like server names and network names and domain names, email addresses, and website names. Stuff that when you got in there and saw it, you wouldn't understand what that was unless you had this person sitting right next to you explaining